I need to stop for a moment. I can't breathe properly. It's 2:47 a.m., and I'm sitting here in Harold's old study, talking to this little recorder I bought at the drugstore. My hands won't stop shaking, not from the cold, though the house is freezing since I can't afford to run the heat like we used to, but from what happened in that courtroom today. No, not today. Yesterday. Time gets slippery when you can't sleep. The judge's face. I'll never forget how it changed when she read that letter. How her eyes went from that tired, seen it all glaze to something else. Recognition, maybe. Or pity. God, I hate pity. Mrs. Brennan, she'd said, and for the first time in months, someone said my name like I was a person, not a problem to be solved. I need to ask you to sit down. But I was already sitting, had been for 3 hours, on that hard wooden bench, my hips screaming, watching my own children, my babies, tell a room full of strangers that I was losing my mind. A long pause, the sound of breathing, maybe crying softly. I should start at the beginning, or try to. Things get jumbled now, like old photographs scattered on the floor. Harold died on a Tuesday. I remember, because I'd just put the roast in for dinner. The same pot roast I'd made every Tuesday for 43 years. He was out in his rose garden, pruning the climbers along the back fence. I could see him through the kitchen window, that old flannel shirt with the hole in the elbow that I'd been meaning to mend. Then he wasn't standing anymore. The paramedics said it was quick. A blessing, they called it. No suffering. But they didn't see how his hand was still clutching those pruning shears, like he wasn't ready to let go, like he had more work to do. Sound of papers rustling. I kept making pot roast on Tuesdays, kept setting 2 plates. Margaret, that's my daughter, she'd find me doing it and get this look. This careful look, like I was a cracked vase that might shatter if she breathed wrong. Mom, she'd say, real gentle. Daddy's gone. Remember? Of course I remembered. How could I forget? The empty side of the bed was cold every morning. His coffee mug, the one with the chip on the handle from when he dropped it that Christmas, sat untouched by the sink. I liked the ritual, the normalcy of it. But Margaret started writing things down, little notes in a notebook she thought I didn't see. Mom set 2 plates again. Mom called for Dad from the garden. Mom forgot to pay the water bill. That last one was true. I did forget the water bill. Once. Harold had always handled the bills, and I was still learning, still adjusting to doing everything alone after 4 decades of together. A shaky breath. The first sign something was really wrong came about 3 months after the funeral. Tom, that's my son, the one who lives in Seattle and calls on Sundays sometimes. He flew in for a visit, except it wasn't a visit. It was an ambush. They sat me down in my own living room, on my own sofa, the one Harold and I bought when Margaret was born, and told me they were worried. The house is too big for you, Mom. You're all alone out here. What if something happens? We just want what's best for you. That phrase. What's best for you? They must have said it 50 times over the next few months. Always with these concerned faces, these practiced smiles, like they'd rehearsed it. I told them I was fine. I had my garden. I had my church friends, though fewer now, since Harold wasn't there to drive me when my arthritis acted up. I had my memories in every corner of this house. The pencil marks on the door frame where we measured the kid's height, the burn mark on the counter from Tom's science experiment gone wrong, the squeaky step that Harold always meant to fix but never did because I told him I liked how it let me know when someone was coming. But they kept pushing, kept showing up unannounced, finding problems, the dust on the ceiling fan, the expired milk I hadn't noticed, the stack of mail I hadn't sorted, because most of it was sympathy cards I couldn't bear to read. Then came the day Margaret found me in the garden, talking to Harold. I knew he wasn't there. I'm not, I wasn't confused. Sometimes you just need to talk to someone who understands, someone who knows why you plant the yellow roses by the gate and the red ones by the porch, someone who remembers which grandchild likes strawberry jam and which one won't eat crusts. But Margaret's face went white. She grabbed my arm, too tight, left bruises, and marched me inside like I was a child who'd misbehaved. Mom, this has to stop. You're scaring me. Scaring her? I was 70 years old, talking to my roses. What was scary about that? Sound of something being picked up, set down. The meetings started after that, with doctors who nodded and wrote things down, but didn't really listen, with lawyers who used words I didn't understand, with a social worker who kept calling me dear in that voice people use with toddlers. I tried to explain, tried to tell them I was just grieving, that I was learning to be alone after a lifetime of together. But my words got tangled. The more upset I got, the more confused I sounded. And the more confused I sounded, the more they nodded and wrote things down. Margaret started staying over, just to help out, she said. But I'd catch her going through drawers, through Harold's desk, through the filing cabinet where we kept important papers. What are you looking for? I asked once. Nothing, Mom. Just organizing. But things went missing. Bank statements, the deed to the house, Harold's will, the one we'd had done proper, with lawyers, not 10 years ago. When I asked about them, Margaret would get that careful look again. They're somewhere safe, Mom. Don't worry about it. Voice breaking. I should have known then. Should have fought harder. But I was so tired. Tired of fighting. Tired of defending my own mind. Tired of being treated like a ghost in my own home. Then Tom flew in again. Another ambush. This time with papers. It's just a formality, he said, sliding them across my kitchen table. The same table where I'd helped him with homework, where Margaret had announced her engagement, where Harold and I had played cards every Friday night for 43 years. Just sign here, Mom. We'll take care of everything. The words swam on the page. Legal gibberish. Power of attorney. Conservatorship. Trust amendments. I need to read these, I said. Of course, Tom said. But he didn't move. Just sat there, pen in hand, waiting. I'll have Mr. Peterson look at them. Mr. Peterson was our lawyer, had been for 30 years. Mom. Margaret's voice was sharp. Mr. Peterson retired. Remember? We talked about this. Had we? I didn't remember. But then, according to them, I didn't remember a lot of things. So I signed. God help me. I signed. Sound of crying. The house sold fast. Too fast. Below market, the neighbor told me later. But by then, it was too late. My children had moved me to a senior community, a nice way of saying a place where they lock the doors at night and someone watches you take your pills. They'd cleared out the house while I was at a doctor's appointment. 43 years of life, boxed up and donated or thrown away. Harold's tools, my sewing machine, the Christmas ornaments we'd collected from every vacation. We saved the important things, Margaret assured me. But her definition of important and mine were different. She saved the valuable things, the silverware, the good china, the jewelry. But she threw away Harold's flannel shirt, the one with the hole in the elbow. She donated my recipe box, the one with my mother's handwriting still visible on the yellowed cards. A long, shuddering breath, I might have accepted it, might have convinced myself they were right, that I was losing my mind, that this was for the best. But then I found the letter. It was an accident. I'd gone back to the house, my house, one last time. Margaret had given me an hour to say goodbye while she waited in the car. I think she was afraid I'd try to stay, chain myself to the porch, or something dramatic. I just wanted to see Harold's roses one more time. The new owners hadn't moved in yet. The house was empty, echoing. I walked through the rooms, touching walls, remembering. In Harold's study, I noticed a heating vent was loose. Harold had hidden Christmas presents there once, years ago, thinking I didn't know. I don't know why I looked. Maybe I hoped to find some small, forgotten thing, some piece of him to keep. Instead, I found an envelope, my name on it in Harold's careful script. My dearest Ellen, if you're reading this, then I'm gone, and you're looking for me in our old hiding spots. You always were too smart for your own good. I need you to know something. I need you to be careful. I've watched Tom and Margaret these last few years, seen how they look at what we've built. Not with love, but with calculation. It breaks my heart to write this, but you need to know there's another will, the real one, not the one they'll find in the filing cabinet. I know they'll come looking. The real one is with Joseph Hartley at Hartley and Associates downtown. He's young, but he's honest. I made sure everything is ironclad. The house stays yours. The accounts stay yours. Everything we built stays yours until you decide otherwise. Don't let them bully you, Ellen. Don't let them make you small. You're the strongest woman I know, even when you don't feel it. All my love, Harold P.S. The yellow roses need extra fertilizer in spring. You always forget. Sobbing now. I sat on that floor for I don't know how long, until Margaret came looking, impatient. I slipped the letter into my pocket. The first dishonest thing I'd done in 70 years. It took me 3 weeks to get to Joseph Hartley's office. 3 weeks of pretending, of playing the confused old woman they expected me to be. The senior community had bus trips to town twice a week for shopping. I told them I needed new stockings. Joseph Hartley was young, like Harold said, maybe 35. He had kind eyes, and he stood when I walked in, pulled out my chair. Small things, human things. Mrs. Brennan, he said, I've been hoping you'd come. Voice steadier now. The real will was everything Harold promised. But more than that, Joseph had records, documentation of the trust Tom had created, moving assets, liquidating accounts, evidence of Margaret's power of attorney abuse, selling the house under market value to a company that, surprise, Tom had connections to. This is, Joseph paused, choosing his words carefully. This is significant financial elder abuse, Mrs. Brennan. We need to act quickly. The next months were a blur of legal proceedings. Depositions where my own children sat across from me, their lawyers painting me as a bitter, confused old woman, lashing out at the people trying to help her. She talks to my dead father, Margaret told the court, tears streaming down her face. She forgets to eat. She can't manage her medications. All performance, all lies, wrapped in tiny truths. Tom was worse. Cold, calculating. He had charts, graphs showing my decline, a log of every forgotten bill. Every moment of grief they'd twisted into evidence of incompetence. We only wanted to protect her, he said, to protect Dad's legacy, Harold's legacy, as if they knew what that was, as if it was measured in dollars and property values, instead of Sunday dinners and birthday cards, and the way he never missed one of Tom's baseball games, even when it meant driving 3 hours after work. Sound of water being sipped. But then Joseph presented our evidence, the real will, the trust documents, the paper trail showing where the money went, not to my care, but to Tom's failing business, to Margaret's husband's gambling debts, and then the letter, Harold's letter, the judge, Judge Catherine Morrison. I'll never forget her name. She read it slowly. When she looked up, her eyes were different. Mr. Brennan, she said to Tom, can you explain why your father felt the need to hide his actual will from his own children? The silence in that courtroom was the loudest thing I'd ever heard. Long pause. They unraveled. After that, Margaret broke first, sobbing about the pressure, the bills, how they just wanted to help, how it had gotten out of hand. Tom stayed cold to the end, talking about investment opportunities and maximizing assets, like I was a portfolio instead of his mother. The judge reversed everything: the house sale, the conservatorship, the power of attorney. She ordered restitution, though Joseph warned me we might never see all the money. You're free to go home, Mrs. Brennan, she said at the end. I'm sorry for what you've endured. But which home? The house had been sold. The new owners had moved in, painted Harold's study, pulled up the roses to put in a pool. Voice breaking again. I'm staying with Joseph's mother for now. Funny how that worked out. She's widowed too, lost her husband 5 years ago. We drink tea in the afternoons and don't talk about our children, who call less and less. Margaret tried to contact me last week, left a voicemail about how sorry she was, how she'd been scared and confused after losing Dad, how Tom had convinced her it was the right thing to do. Maybe it's true. Maybe she was scared. But I was scared too, and I didn't steal from anyone. Tom hasn't called. Joseph says he's moved to Florida, started over. I wonder if he tells people there about his mother, or if I've been erased from his story entirely. Sound of movement, footsteps. It's nearly 4 a.m. now. I should try to sleep. Tomorrow, today, Joseph is taking me to look at a small house near his mother's. It has a garden, not as big as Harold's, but there's room for roses. Yellow ones by the gate, red ones by the porch. I'm 71 years old. I've lost my husband, my children, my home, but I haven't lost myself. That's what they couldn't take, no matter how hard they tried. Harold knew. Somehow he knew I'd need to remember that. Final pause. If you're listening to this at 4 a.m. because you can't sleep either, if someone's trying to make you small, trying to convince you that your grief is confusion, that your sadness is senility, you're not alone, and you're not crazy. Sometimes the people who are supposed to love us most are the ones who hurt us deepest. Sometimes family is the enemy you never see coming. But you're stronger than you know, even when your hands shake, even when your voice breaks, even when they've taken everything but your story. This is my story. I'm Ellen Brennan. I'm 71 years old. I'm a widow. I'm a mother, even if my children have forgotten what that means. And I'm still here. Recording ends. Where are you tonight? What's keeping you awake? Have you had to choose between family and dignity? I'd like to know. I'm not the only one who's had to learn that blood doesn't always mean love, that sometimes the family we choose, a kind lawyer, his gentle mother, a judge who really sees you, is more real than the one we're born into. I'd like to know I'm not alone in this strange new world where I'm learning to plant roses again, one careful bloom at a time,